that will improve these technologies and build better business models that would ensure that the technologies match the farmers' incidence of need. The use of digital technology by farmers. So you're welcome to this parallel session on accelerating digital innovation for African food systems resilience. Please, we should all note that this event is recorded. By participating, you show your willingness to be recorded. Throughout the session, we'll invite you to go to the chat function and put in messages or questions or comments that you have. Also, there will be a dedicated 10-minute slot that will be given for speakers to answer some of our questions, as many questions as we have. I'll take just a few seconds out to introduce myself right now. My name is Akin Akinwande. I head the business development and digital projects team for OCP Africa in the Central region. And I have had cause to work on several digital innovative projects that have been very useful to smallholder farmers, even at this part of the world. So I'm very glad to be a moderator at this event. I will be having 4 basic sections at this event. One, we'll be going through the keynote presentations. Very quickly, we'll have 2 keynote speakers, and then we'll be going through the panel sequences. We'll have 2 panel sequences. Each of the panel sequences has 6 speakers who will be giving us very short messages, which will be very useful to us. Thirdly, we'll have a question and answer session very quickly where we'll be able to take your questions, and then we'll round up with a closing remark. That basically is the highlight of today's event. We're very happy to have you here. I will quickly go on to introduce the keynote speakers. For now, our first keynote speaker today is no other person than Dan Haglund. Dan Haglund is an advisor from FCDO, and he'll be talking to us very quickly. Dan, are you ready?
So Dan, apologies, I was on mute. I am indeed ready. My video seems to have frozen, but I can hear you very well, and I hope you can hear me too.
Oh, fantastic. You have the floor, Dan.
Great, thank you so much. And good morning and good afternoon to everybody. Delighted to be here today, and thank you so much for the opportunity to provide a few opening remarks to this session. I wanted to first just set the scene a little bit and say a few things about the context we're facing here and sort of 3 dimensions of that. And I think the first point is really around the challenges we're facing as a global community and the sort of unprecedented scale of these. Just thinking about the climate crisis, accelerating loss of biodiversity, increasing food security, and growing inequalities in many parts of the world. The second point is that these challenges I just mentioned, they're also interlinked. And you know, we all know that climate change will have huge impact on agricultural productivity and potentially drive increased deforestation and land degradation and so on, unless unless those things are mitigated. Finally, the last point of context is just around the sort of the urgent nature of these challenges as well. And we've seen just recently new evidence from IPCC and the Food and Agriculture Organization around the how climate change as well as food security are accelerating. So I think the point here is just that the challenges we face are they're big, they're urgent, and to overcome them, I think what we need is nothing short of a transformation in food systems. And this is why, as the FCDO and the UK presidency for COP26, we have launched a campaign on transforming agriculture innovation for people, nature, and climate. So this campaign is now live, and we've got a microsite at the URL www.climateshot.earth. That's climate shot, one word, where we're seeking allies who can join the campaign and support the 4 objectives of the campaign, which I'd like to share with you in a moment, and sort of also to share a bit with you about how digital and AgriTech kind of fit into those objectives around what we need in order to transform food systems. So the first objective of the campaign is around mobilizing increased investment for innovation in agriculture. And we know that the current rates of investment into research and development, but also deployment and scaling, are nowhere near enough to meet the challenges we face. So under this objective around mobilizing investment, the UK is very proud to be partnering with the Gates Foundation and USAID to launch the Digital Agri-Hub. So the Digital Agri-Hub, and that's now at www.digitalagrihub.org in one word. So this initiative really rose out of the groundbreaking work that was done by CTA and Dahlberg back in 2019 and presented at the plenary sessions of AGRF in that year. Basically looking at the plethora of digital solutions and platforms for agriculture in Africa, and really giving us a clear view of how there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of innovation that's also impactful and inclusive in terms of how it's trying to work with poorer smallholder farmers, but these solutions struggle to scale. And there's several reasons for this, but part of it is sort of the mismatch between the capital that exists and the businesses that we're trying to support. So we're launching the Digital Agri-Hub. We've got a launch event on the 12th of October, and we encourage you all to go to that website, digitalagrihub.org, where there's a link to signing up for that launch event. And that will ultimately sort of try to provide evidence and data on digital ag solutions out there, and in doing so sort of promote the building of an ecosystem around this space, and also try to promote increased investment into that area. The second objective of the campaign is around changing how we do innovation, and it's really about shifting much more towards an approach to innovation that really places the end user, the farmer, the small-scale producer at the center of the research and innovation process. And we have seen in recent years that there's a lot of work taking place that's kind of showing and giving us the evidence that actually incorporating the farmer and their needs and aspirations into these processes right from the start actually makes sense in terms of increasing the impacts that you have for farmers, the development impacts as well as environmental impacts. Having more contextual information about the particular agronomic conditions of farmers, particular soil conditions and so on, mean that you can then provide more appropriate inputs, fertilizer, etc. But also we're seeing how actually such approaches, kind of focusing on the end user and focusing on the farmer, actually drives business performance, because businesses can then tap into increased demand for their products and services. So that's the second objective of the campaign, kind of shifting how we think about agricultural innovation. The third objective of the campaign is around partnerships, and it's really about a kind of innovation in terms of like how we partner and who we partner with. And a lot of this is about strengthening links between public and private sector and research institutions. But also it's about, and I think that's important in this context around digital agriculture, partnering and sort of using digital to better link up different business solutions that might be focusing on a specific need for farmers. So we've seen through the work of Mercy Corps and others growing evidence that bundling of services that address multiple small-scale producer needs can be really effective and sort of drive uptake of more resilient technologies and so on. But we're also seeing that even where a single organization or business might not bundle solutions together, digital provides opportunities through data sharing and so on, and sort of APIs to really kind of bundle things and for businesses to also come together and provide more coherent offerings to farmers. The fourth and final objective of the campaign for transforming agriculture innovation is kind of around evidence and shifting the dialogue away from an ideology-based dialogue, which we often see in our sector, towards more of an evidence-based dialogue. And I think this is particularly important as we're all increasingly looking at the different impacts that our work is having on farmers and on the natural environment in which those activities take place, thinking a lot more about climate impacts, thinking about carbon neutrality, thinking about environmental impacts, and so on. And in this context, better understanding those impacts, better understanding the trade-offs is really key. And I think digital there also has a big role to play through frontier technologies like satellites and sensors and so on, and the sort of aggregation of data from those different sources to give us a more nuanced perspective of different types of impacts that our work is having. And of course also, there's opportunities here to kind of link that into innovative financing mechanisms, harnessing digital to monitor and verify impacts and so on. So I think that point around strengthening the evidence base is really important, and I think digital plays a big role there as well. So I'll stop there. I think just to conclude, I hope I've given, shared a bit of a sense of both the urgency of the challenge and the scale of the challenge, but also the opportunities that we have in sort of rising to those. If we come together as a community, if we break out of our silos a bit and kind of work together to, harness digital, to mobilize investment, to sort of work better together to measure and verify those impacts, and also build the evidence base. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dan Hagland. It's been a very good 7-minute session of discussing how you have ensured that digital solutions are farmer-led, and how you have ensured that these concerns can be adapted to the needs of the farmers and that help decision making for these farmers. Thank you very much. We're very glad to have you. Thank you. We probably might have questions at the tail end, but let's carry on with the other speakers. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Next, we'll be having Ms. Maura Barry, who will be speaking to us. What she wants to talk to us about is how do we find the need for the right policy and investments to avoid the danger of digital agriculture technologies being piecemeal, being unsustainable, and being uninclusive. And she's going to be talking based on USAID's experience to expand on the need for the digital ecosystem to be coordinated with a collaborative approach to be able to roll out and scale up digital innovation. Mrs. Maura Barry is the Senior Deputy Assistant Administrator for Bureau for Resilience and Food Security at the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. She oversees USAID's strategic direction and partnerships, operations, and programming to help reduce global hunger, poverty, and malnutrition, while increasing the availability and sustainable management of safe water and sanitation for all. Ms. Maura Barry, you can take up the stage next. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be here. This, 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to participate on a panel about advancing digital strategies at the 2019 AGRF, which took place in Ghana. So I'm really delighted to once again in person be participating in AGRF here in Kenya. Since 2019, USAID finalized its own digital strategy, which supports our vision to adopt an open, secure, and interoperable and inclusive approach to digital development. And in doing so, the USAID strategy supports our mission, which is improving development and humanitarian assistance as well as increasing the resilience of our partner communities. And we've prioritized two objectives in this strategy. The first objective is how USAID can improve its work through digital technology. And we want to deliver better outcomes in a really responsible way, one that can help us achieve all of our food security and water security goals. And then second, we want to strengthen digital ecosystems in countries where we work. We recognize that our programming influences the ecosystems in which we operate, and also vice versa. So that's why we see these two objectives as complementary. And we work to achieve these two goals in a number of ways, such as working to increase technology adoption, partnering with both national and regional governments, and increasing innovation and sustainability through our partnerships with the private sector. However, I think many of us know from our experience that donor-funded efforts in a digital space really have too often led to piecemeal and unsustainable programming. And that is why USAID is working to build a strong relationship between the public and the private sector. We know that governments should really clearly understand that companies' perspectives so that the right incentives can be applied to encourage innovation and to encourage growth. And at the same time, donors and our implementing partners have a responsibility to understand the local communities in which they work and to provide tools that meet local needs rather than building systems that really may not be necessary. And in addition, building better digital services can cut down on data fragmentation, which will improve the help that local communities and businesses receive. And so one of the examples of what USAID is doing is working to improve digital coordination through our partnership with the Gates Foundation and FCDO in the Digital Agri-Hub, which Dan just mentioned in his remarks and was speaking about. So once this platform launches in the coming months, we'll be able to highlight digital solutions that are used in other countries that can be implemented and replicated elsewhere. So the Digital Agri-Hub will be able to help development partners, investors, and policymakers to better understand the state of digital agriculture innovation at a more granular level, and to be able to tailor their engagement and support, provide support to really amplify what the potential impact is. Of course, improved coordination is important among development partners, but it's also critical for locally driven development. And developing these digital tools in partnership with users and with businesses and traditionally marginalized groups will increase the likelihood that they're commercially viable and useful on the ground. We also recognize that some emerging economies lack adoption of even basic digital tools on a wide scale. And this primarily is due to high costs, to low network coverage, and also the lack of digital literacy. And these barriers tend to be the highest among rural, low-income, and less educated populations. One example is that more than 1 in 3 people in rural areas in least developed countries either lack access altogether to mobile networks entirely, or they have access only to 2G coverage. And in addition, women often face even more barriers to accessing technology, which, if they had that access, might otherwise increase their access to finance and expand employment opportunities. On average, women are 20% less likely to own a smartphone and 43% less likely to engage online. And this has real consequences for their families and for food production. And these gaps also impact people with disabilities, indigenous peoples, and ethnic, linguistic, and religious minorities. So this is where USAID and our partners can make a difference. The Better Than Cash Alliance has found that access to digital finance services strengthens women's household decision-making power and increases their labor force participation, among other benefits. It also is important to ensure that we think differently about developing and deploying digital solutions so that will not exacerbate existing inequalities. And so for our part, USAID is committed to closing the digital divide and integrating inclusive development goals into all of our programs. And USAID also funds programs that leverage digital technologies to expand opportunities for young people in food systems. For example, in Ghana, the use of digital tools and services is making youth participation in agriculture much easier. And young people, I think we all know, often play an important role in introducing digital technologies to their communities and insisting older people like me that are less digitally literate in their communities. So as we hear from the panelists today, I want to encourage us all to think about our role in building an open, inclusive digital space. How can we increase partnerships and collaboration? How can we build more inclusive and responsive tools at the local level? So if we keep these questions in mind as we're listening to the panelists, I think that we can generate some new ideas and partnerships. So I look forward to the conversation. And with that, I thank you once again and hand the mic back over to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barry. It's been a delight listening to you. And we particularly like what you've said about partnerships and collaborations, and organizations represented here know very well that we need to think about that to be able to help the smallholder farmer. Thank you very much. That was a great session. We can give her another round of applause, please. Thank you. So very quickly, we'll be going to the sequence, the first sequence, what we call sequence 1 of this session. And we have 6 panelists who are going to be talking to us in sequence 1. But quickly, I just want to do a brief rundown of what we're looking at. Having encountered COVID-19 for the last pretty much above a year, it's exposed the entire world to the vulnerability of agricultural and food systems in low and middle income countries. Statistics say that up to 70 to 80% of smallholder farmers, who are the backbone of rural economies, have reported that they are worse off during this period than they were before it. So how exactly do we ensure that these farmers get access to agricultural advisory, access to much needed financing, access to quality inputs on their farms, and access to markets, identifying new markets, major markets, international markets that they can sell their produce to? And that's why this session, titled Leveraging Digital Innovation to Accelerate Food Systems, is very key to us talking about what we need to do and what are the action items as a continent, as the world, that we need to do to be able to help rural farming or smallholder farming in Africa. And our first panelist today is going to be Dr. Daniel Asare-Kie. He is the CEO of Isoko Limited in Ghana. Mr. Kie is an agricultural economist, a technologist, a geoinformation scientist, and also an entrepreneur. And what he's going to be looking at is how are smallholder farmers toying with little or no information, or are they being overloaded by information? How can stakeholders reduce this risk of saturation and farmer fatigue? Dr. Daniel, over to you.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for having me on this program. I'm very delighted to be taking part in this session. This is my second AGRF, having moderated a session in the 2019 event that was held in Ghana. And so I'll be very interested in talking about how smallholder farmers are said to be having information overload, especially when it comes to digital advisory services. I might say that the issue of information overload among smallholder farmers is actually debatable. And some of us don't really think that there's indeed any information overload among smallholder farmers in Africa. And it is because a recent study that was conducted by CTA and DABEC advisors found that there are about 390 AgriTech companies operating in Africa. And together, all of them are registered about 33 million smallholder farmers across the continent. Now, there's an estimated 200 million expected smallholder farmers who could actually register for some of these AgTech solutions by the year 2030. Now, what this means is that as much as 84% of potential farmers in Africa have not necessarily been reached by digital advisory services. And so really the issue about information overload and farmers not having or being kind of saturated information is really debatable, and some of it don't think really is really indeed the case. Again, when Isoko, launched our Farmer First helpline in 2014, of course, with the support of USAID, you were expecting that most of the call that were coming to the call center was going to be about the so-called high-value crops, like cocoa, like tomatoes, like pineapple, like mangoes, like other vegetables. However, you were surprised to learn that most of the calls to our call center were indeed about the so-called common and the so-called staple crops, like maize, cassava, and the legumes. What this really means is that the knowledge gap within this agricultural value chain is still very deep, and that many more farmers are really need information, and even on the so-called common crop that they have been growing apparently for the past 100 or so, 200 years since agriculture became an important activity within the human race. And so if this kind of deep knowledge within our gap between the smallholder farmer population, especially in the midst of climate change and climate variability, one cannot necessarily be saying that farmers are really saturated with information when it comes to digital advisory services. Well, while there could be some information saturation or farmer fatigue in some countries, with the highest concentration of AgTech companies like Kenya or Ghana or Uganda, there are still many more countries across the continent where the reach of agricultural data advisory services is very minimal. So places like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Benin, and many more countries still have very few AgTech companies operating in this environment. And so farmers in these areas will still have a lot of knowledge that they require to be able to come to understand how modern agriculture is actually run and implemented. However, I must point out that in countries with the highest concentration of digital advisory information services, there's a real risk of farmers getting conflicting information from different sources. Now, not only this is dangerous, but also the many AgTech companies operating in these small markets could create what I call fragmentation in the industry. And when this happens, most of these startups cannot scale beyond a few user base. There is therefore a need for industry enablers to actively promote mergers among AgTech startups so they can better serve the needs of farmers across the continent. And I'm very happy to learn that there's already an initiative to launch an AgTech hub for the industry players, for people to know what is already operating and where they are actually working. After this kind of platform will be very, very good for people to know what others are doing. So even within the AgTech company themselves, they can begin to look at which of us are really doing something that are very, very similar. So you can explore collaboration, you can explore mergers, and you can explore how you can work together. Because effectively, if you're not able to do that, what's going to happen is that none of these AgTech companies are going to scale beyond, say, 100 or few users. And so there's real need for people to look at what's really operating, what exists elsewhere, so we can actually promote active mergers, active collaboration among AgTech companies. Again, on the risk of farmer fatigue and information saturation, and as I indicated before, I don't think we need to worry about that now, but our governments can be more proactive by spearheading the formation of active ecosystem in the industry like this I was talking about. I'm not really calling for government regulations because I know that sometimes regulation can actually stifle innovation and could limit the adoption of digital and information services among the smallholder farmer population. I think, however, that African governments can actually do more to promote public-private partnerships and support the formation of technology chambers so that they can self-regulate themselves and avoid the perceived risk of farmer fatigue and information saturation among smallholder farmer population. I mean, one cannot really belittle the important role that digital advice services have played on the lives of smallholder farmers across the continent. We at Isoko have seen enormous benefit of farmers having access to information. And from our experience, you've seen farmers increasing their income by at least 10% just by having access to market information. You've seen entire communities earning better prices just because their bargaining power has increased as a result of decreased access to accurate market information. Therefore, they are able to negotiate better with buyers and aggregators. We have seen situations where farmers refuse to sell their crops at their villages, and then they're able to have a truck go to nearby market and get 500% more in price that they receive. So leveraging mobile and web technology to improve supply chain efficiency has had the benefit of leapfrogging the traditional agricultural systems that we have in Africa. And I think that really that information overload may not be a problem as we talk about now. What's really needed now is to promote active collaboration among various stakeholders, so we can actually look at what really exists somewhere, and then we can all work together and make sure the industry really succeed very well. So these are just initial remarks. I'll be very happy to take further questions when the session get to that point. Thank you very much once again for having me on the program. I'm very delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Asarike. I mean, it's been a delight listening to you. We know Isoko has done a lot in Ghana. Being your next door neighbor, I mean, we want to say thank you so much. You've been doing a great work. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. The questions will come in at the tail end of the sequence. So once we end the sequence, we'll have the questions. Very quickly, we are also going to move on to the next section that looks at how exactly is the role of research in helping practitioners identify mature technologies and the entry points for food system transformation. We'll be looking at a case study of digital innovations in food systems evidence clearinghouse. And this is going to be done by no other person but Brian King, who is the platform coordinator of CGIAR. Brian King leads the platform for big data in agriculture, a global program of the CGIAR consortium centered on digital transformation of food systems worldwide. So Brian King, it's a delight to have you. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Akin, and hello, everybody. Wonderful to be here. So the program that I coordinate, the platform for big data, we look at data standards and data sharing, partnerships and technical communities of practice, and we also look at digital innovation. And you know, I'm happy to offer some observations about where research institutes, and particularly research institutes, you know, public interest institutions, can play a role in helping to source and accelerate responsible digital innovation in agri-food. And you know, there's immense complexity to navigate. Agri-food systems are, of course, you know, multifaceted and as multi-stakeholder as anything can be. They intersect with agri-food, ecological systems, socioeconomic systems, factors of social inclusion and exclusion, and of course, digital is dynamic and expanding and changing economies and societies worldwide. And so, how we navigate that complexity, how we engage in some kind of collective sense making, can present a real challenge. And so, how, you know, my team and program have been working on this has been to try to find some ways in which we can make more agile use of data and evidence to guide some of this sense making. And so, you know, as Akin mentioned, there's a particular, it's embodied, or, you know, one of them is embodied in a particular product that we call the Evidence Clearinghouse for Digital Food System Innovation. So I'll give you a peek at the development site of it here for the next few minutes. And so what we've done with this is take the food system, here, let me go, it's a sort of stylized version of the food system framework, with various components in it, you know, processed through nutrition and consumption and distribution and so forth, and a kind of functional typology that can continue to evolve and grow as we learn, but you know, a functional typology of digital innovation, types of digital innovation, and then some very pretty well established indicators related to types of impact, so gender, youth, environmental, several food security factors. And so what this is essentially a common and extensible data model. It's a way to be describing data and evidence that can help us to manage, you know, pretty high volume and very rapidly characterize digital interventions according to, you know, where they intersect with these different factors, the kinds of impacts that they're seeking to have. As evidence accretes, we can characterize that as well, and we can see how are they going along that path. And so what this enables us to do as a result is to start to develop some you know, kind of course level, but still, I think, very valuable cross-cutting sector intelligence. And so, where Daniel was talking about, oh, it's really helpful to be able to know what each other are doing. This can help us to kind of get our bearings a little bit, and then we can, focus in on and learn, do some meta-analysis on what kinds of innovations are interventions or innovations are happening where, what do they say they're going to be doing, how do we, should we be sourcing rather and directing our investment in different ways to affect the kinds of changes that we would like to see in agri-food systems, some of the transformational changes. And so this points to, I think, the fact that we can do something like this. CGIAR, as a public interest organization, we tend to have a good sort of multifaceted trust among multiple players in the in the ag sector, and I think that it demonstrates that we can have a really important role as kind of bridging institutions, as we try to build the kinds of digital innovation ecosystems that can affect the changes that we would like to see. So I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brian. We've picked out some valuable lessons on how you have looked out through research on what exactly people should focus on. Thank you so much. It was great having you. We'll be moving over to another panel speaker that will be talking about extension. In Africa, digital extension or extension service generally is very key. Not only because a lot of our smallholder farmers don't have access to mobile technology direct link, so they form like the next link before the farmers, which is very good, but also because it forms a very big vista of making sure that so much products and services can be accessed by these smallholder farmers. So we'll be having someone talk today on how we want to use youth-led digital extension and advisory services. How is attracting youths to agriculture? And today we'll be having Etienne Niyigaba. I hope I pronounced the name properly. Forgive me if I didn't. Mr. Etienne is the Agriculture Extension Advisor of the Hingaweze project in Rwanda. He's an agronomist and is a certified project manager. Etienne, please take the floor. It's nice to have you.
Thank you very much, moderator, for the opportunity to speak at this session. My name is Etienne, as you said, and I will be presenting what we did at Hingaweze project in Rwanda in terms of bringing youth, trying to link youth digital extension and to see how we can bridge those two to actually have more engagement of youth in agriculture, especially in agriculture extension. So I will give you a brief introduction to Hingaweze. Hingaweze is a Feed the Future Hingaweze activity, which is implemented in Rwanda in collaboration with the government of Rwanda and local leaders, actually to train farmers in good practices, including terracing, irrigation, and other activities. And so with the aim of sustainably increase smallholder farmers' income and improve national status of Rwandan women and children, nutritional status. We also aim at increasing the resilience of agriculture and food system to the changing climate. Hingaweze saw that there is that need of engaging youth in agriculture, and then up to now we have a kind of 24% of youth who are actually participating in Hingaweze activities in the last 4 years, and we support youth in agriculture production activities access to finance, internship programs, capacity building in digital extension. We also capacitate the youth in digital extension and private extension services. So we have also provided some grant on youth in agribusiness. So we also provided some kind of internship, and we trained over 100 extension agents in digital extension. So I will move quickly on how we actually went into digital extension and how we linked them to youth participation in agriculture. So our main goal was to strengthen the digital extension capacity and integrate youth in public and private extension, and provide a youth-friendly approach to engage youth in extension and agriculture activities. So what we did, first of all, we conducted a capacity need assessment to see how the extension agents are behaving toward actually consuming digital information and using agriculture extension tools. So with that survey, we actually saw that youth are the most used digital tools in agriculture extension, and it was noted that there are differences in demographics, trainings, and digital asset being used across that demography. So there are also certain characteristics associated with being more open to change and to digitalize agriculture extension. So after seeing that, we saw that there is a need of actually training youth on how to actually engage in extension activities, but in a more professional way. So that's where we embarked on customizing the new extension learning kit, which is a kit developed by the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services. So we partnered with the Ministry of Agriculture, the lab, and also another Feed the Future another Feed the Future project called DLEC to customize this kit into Rwandan context, actually for extension agents to have everything in a Rwandan context. So then we customize the marketing and value chain, the climate smart agriculture module, the nutrition sensitive extension module, the digital extension module, and also the agriculture entrepreneurship, the community mobilization. So we wanted actually youth to have that capacity of teaching or facilitating or coaching farmers, but having actually a very professional skills. These modules are available online, and the extension agent can just go online and browse it, which is very friendly for youth to use. So we actually conducted a digital extension training where we trained youth in extension video production and also in extension video dissemination in the community using digital tools. So we had also, in collaboration with the CABI, we developed an application for training for agriculture extension training, monitoring, and distribution. So it is a web application that allow actually training content to be uploaded to the platform, consisting of a dashboard that allows users and admin to manage and download and analyze those data. So the outcome, it was actually tested on 15 trainers, but now it was extended to 100 youth proximity extension agents equipped with Android tablet for them to perform well their job. So we are now counting, we are projecting up to 5,000 farmers to be trained on maize cultivation technique using that application in this cropping season. So we also supported the agribusiness or ICT for agriculture companies, most of them owned by youth, including the Mahuitech, which strengthen actually the MLIMA platform, which is a youth-owned agriculture output marketing information platform, where we link our farmers using the extension agent we have on the field, and then we link them to that platform where they can post their produce and then have a linkage to the market. We also supported the expansion of this the smart Hunganle system, which is actually the input, distribution, and marketing information. And also the digitalization of agro dealership and operation through mobile order processing application, which is the MOPA, which is an application actually used by agro dealers in Rwanda to procure inputs. So as of my conclusion, I can say that there is a very good power in leveraging youth potential because youth have energy to engage in trying different initiatives. So we see in Africa that almost 11 million of young people join the African labor market each year, and yet the continent generates up to 3.7 million jobs annually. So, which means that linking youth to agriculture through youth-friendly means can significantly contribute to diversified innovation and job creation and agricultural development in Africa, especially. So thank you very much. I may close my presentation here. So if there is any question, I can just respond to them in the due time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Etienne. Thank you so much. That was a very exhaustive presentation. We'll quickly go on to the next speaker. We're running a bit out of time, so I'm going to double up in speed. Ms. Lida Schrader is the program director of AgriFin, AgriFin Accelerate program at Mexico. She's a director at the AgriFin Accelerate and the AgriFin Farmer projects at Mexico. And these projects represent $30 million of innovation funding from the MasterCard Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, specifically to expand smallholder farmer access to technology-enabled financial and information service in sub-Saharan Africa. So we are very excited to have you to talk to us about the principles to be adopted to build a digitally enabled agricultural ecosystem. Lisa, please, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you to AGRA for including the Mercy Corps AgriFin programs in the discussion today, and to our distinguished speakers. As was just noted, I've been leading the Mercy Corps AgriFin programs out of our hub office here in Kenya for the last 6 years, funded by the Gates Foundation, the MasterCard Foundation, and our goal is to work side by side with public and private sector actors looking to design, test, and scale digital services for smallholder farmers. So the context of our work is obviously extremely important. We have the majority of the global working poor is in agriculture. Here in Africa, it is over 70% of the population is involved in small scale agriculture in some way. We're seeing significant impacts of climate change now on smallholder farmers. The FAO is estimating a 25% decline across Africa in crop productivity linked to climate change. We also obviously are dealing with the impacts of COVID, and then just the historical challenges that smallholder farmers face, being really at the last mile, and particularly women and youth working in agriculture. So it's absolutely critical for the food production of Africa. Smallholder farmers are the backbone of the economy and also produce 80% of the food that's consumed in Africa. So the goal of the AgriFin programs is to work with more than 150 partners across Africa to try to address these problems through digital technologies. We're trying to kind of work at the bleeding edge of bringing the best products and services to smallholder farmers. And over the last 6 years, we've helped our partners reach more than 16 million smallholder farmers with digitally enabled services. And one of the things that we try to do is to bring together bundles of services in terms of the principles that drive the program work. We try to bring together bundles of services for smallholder farmers. Something that we've learned is that financial services, while extremely important in a vacuum for smallholder smallholder farmers, many farmers don't want to take on a loan for inputs. They say that they want to learn first. They want to have a good market to access first, and then they'll take on a loan. They may not trust insurance, but they're willing to take on insurance if they get great access to inputs. So one of the core principles of the AgriFin work has been to help our partners bundle services. In the CTA report that was referenced earlier on, the digital technology allows for the combination of services and different kinds of organizations in bundles in ways that are very important. So if you see that digital advisory services based on the CTA report can increase farmer productivity and income by 23%, market access can increase farmer productivity and income by 78%. Financial services can increase by 38%. But if you combine it all into a bundle of services, you can increase farmer income and productivity by up to 168%. So this has been the core focus of what we do. I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute about our impact research from the last year. But you know, obviously it was great to hear from Brian King at CGIAR and the Big Data Alliance, because this digital world, this digital ecosystem that we're all working to build is also contributing large volumes of digital data to the government, to scientific institutes, to farmer-facing organizations. And you know, what we're seeing now is the beginning of these digital ecosystems to bring together this data to drive better products and services for farmers, better policy, et cetera. And we believe that digital tools have a lot of promise in the face of the climate challenge now as well. We're beginning to see digital climate smart agriculture enter into the market through products including precision weather advisory and crop insurance against drought and flood, pest and disease. And we believe that the digital ecosystem that we're building now can be a game changer for building farmers' ability to adapt and mitigate the effects of climate change. And this is really going to be important in terms of building smarter markets. And I appreciated the earlier comment about the need for just complete food system transformation. Not only do we need to make markets more inclusive, but we need to make them climate smart. And we need them to reach much larger numbers of farmers. So we're beginning to see these digital platforms stand at the nexus of important data like Earth observation data. You know, how is our soil? How is our soil now? What should we be doing about our soil on this acre of land? You know, how is the water? You know, what do we know about water availability and how can water be managed? These are the kinds of breakthrough applications of data through breakthrough types of technology. We're starting to see really important uses of Internet of Things technology through irrigation, blockchain technology through crop insurance. And this helps us to really tailor the delivery of services through different microclimates and varied regions and contexts, and to adapt technology to work for women, to adapt technology to work for farmers that have low literacy from a technology perspective and a language perspective. But I think what's most important for AgriFin to be able to contribute here is some of the information from our 17 impact studies that we have completed over the last year. After 6 years of work with over 150 partners in Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Zambia, Uganda. And this was a terrible year to conduct impact studies. So after 6 years of hard work, you know, the vast majority, 80% of farmers have seen decreases in income and productivity because of COVID, desert locust. One thing that we would say is, even though we were measuring impact during a horrible time, we did see very significantly that more than 70 to 80% of the farmers across our partners were still seeing this past year an increase in income and productivity, even in the face of COVID. And one of the things we're very proud of and happy about is that after 6 years of work, 40% of the farmers that we've helped our partners to reach are women. Women smallholder farmers are adopting digital technology. I think we're finding ways to bridge the digital divide. And also over the last 2 years, what we've seen is that we have a 98% active use of digital services. So, and this is obviously not us. This is the 150 farmer-facing organizations that we work with, some of whom you'll be hearing from later on. But I think that what we're doing, I think we're figuring out how to use tools like human-centered design, user experience testing, to finally get to a user experience that drives real value for smallholder farmers and impact. So in terms of what we're learning across our partners, the 150 partners, I think we worked with about 20 partners through these impact studies directly. We're seeing 73% of the farmers have reported significant increase in farm production. 70% even over this year have observed significant increase in income, and 77% have increased resilience and quality of life. So I think that what we can see is that bundles of financial service, of digital services, are helping farmers improve their farm productivity, income, and resilience. One of the other things that we think has been very important is that 84% of the farmers that reported it in these studies indicated that they were accessing a service for the first time. So they had never had access to insurance, they had never had access to irrigation, they had never had access to farmer learning, different types of financial services, input credit. We think this is really important. So we think digital services are showing that they can break through and deliver services to farmers in very remote areas, and farmers who haven't had access before. We've also seen that across our research, that bundling services does have an accelerator effect on impact, and that the reports of impact were no different for men and women accessing the same bundle. So if we can drive that inclusive access, if we can get women access to these digital bundles, they are also gaining benefits. Just the last thing that I'll say is the particular services that we're seeing that are really having impact for farmers include organizations like Hello Tractor and access to mechanization, digitized savings groups for women, crop insurance, weather advisory, and then the last thing I'll call out is digitally enabled field force. So organizations like Digifarm, who you'll hear from later on, reaching 50% women, are seeing significant positive impacts for women, including their ability to reduce time poverty, hire more labor, gain more control over their finances. And we'll be hearing from some of them later on, but I think that the research is up on our website, www.mercycorps.mercycorpsagrifin.org, and I invite you to take a look. I think we're starting to see some real movement here.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. That was a great session. I mean, talking about women inclusion is fantastic, precision farming, and also bundling services. That's very, very, very exciting. Very quickly, we'll be moving on to the next speaker, Dexter Tangochi. He's the co-founder and CTO and geospatial analyst at Integrated Aerial Systems. It's a fully licensed drone service provider that leverages drone technology to deliver end-to-end drone service, from flight planning, data collection, to processing analytics, and even crop spraying. Dexter will be talking to us that how does the ecosystem support, how can it be extended to AgTech startups in Africa? How do we incentivize innovation in digital solutions? Dexter, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to speak at least partly from personal experience being an AgTech startup. We were founded in 2016 and have gradually built up a client base, initially in data analytics and aerial surveying, providing farmers with access to information about the health of their crops, down to per tree analytics, and more recently into crop spraying. We realized that one of the uses of our data was targeted crop spraying. So it was a natural progression for us to start offering crop spraying as a service. What we also do is offer a platform model where we empower farmers and entrepreneurs to provide drone services legally. So we provide the legal framework via a digital platform model. So AgTech startups which provide digital solutions for agriculture and food sectors, but have not yet reached scale, are substantially more abundant than those that have reached scale. This is essentially why we're here and in these discussions and debates. So, I mean, one of the key challenges startups face really is attaining product market fit for a scalable, repeatable business model. And this is usually not possible without a robust ecosystem of support, including incentives from industry and government. Despite beneficial innovations and viable business models, most startups fail to achieve a wide impact and therefore also fail to drive forward the modernization and developments of the agriculture and food industry. The solutions developed reach only a limited number of users, which is, of course, one of the key problems. It's down to two main reasons: lack of sufficient product market fit, including a product that is introduced too early into the market. And in this case, support such as grant funding is required to bridge that time gap between future adoption and demand and your current financial runway as an SME. And then secondly, lack of access to a wider market due to capital and resource constraints. So firstly, equitable access to technology in line with the UN Sustainable Developmental Goal 9, which is building resilient infrastructure, promoting inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and fostering innovation. For me, one of the fundamental issues here is actually access to the technological infrastructure. One of the big ones in sub-Saharan Africa is cellular broadband internet access in rural areas in particular. Smartphone penetration in sub-Saharan Africa is less than 50%, and 4G internet access is currently less than 10%. Just to note, these figures represent an average, and it is even lower in rural areas where smallholder farmers are usually located. The increase in digital literacy can only take place once access. From personal experience, even in South Africa, with higher than those average smartphone and internet penetration figures, and even on well-funded, large industrialized farming customers, we found that digital access to our digital platform is often challenging due to less than adequate internet access. And there is still currently that gap, in particular with smallholder farmers. So I would say that as fundamentally, access to internet, increasing broadband cellular access is one of the key requirements for adoption of digital innovation in the AgTech industry and for smallholder farmers. Further to that, identifying viable agri-tech startups and promotion by industry leaders and governments. There's obviously a huge amount of AgTech startups, and it can be quite overwhelming for farmers, for governments, for other industry leaders. And the fact that most of us haven't reached a widespread scale yet just sort of adds to that difficulty in actually adopting the services of an SME. And then developing the management technological capacities of startups. This can be done through incubators, accelerators, and then even preferential procurements of services from government incentives and from requirements of corporate responsibility by AgTech industry leaders. And then promoting access to investment and partnerships for growth. So Dan Hagland, who spoke first from Digital AgriHub, I mean, that just it got me thinking that it's, you know, the solution to at least some of the challenges that AgTech companies face is often other digital solutions, such as platforms making it easier for farmers to access the services of AgTech companies in a more coherent manner than the fast-paced, often haphazard way that farmers come into contact with AgTech solutions. This kind of solution helps mitigate farmer fatigue in the fast-paced world of agri-tech. So, I mean, really a call to action is that we'd like to invite private industry, governments to invest in agriculture SMEs, startups, subsidize us, incentivize us, and importantly, de-risk capital for us. The AgTech SMEs are taking risks and pushing the drive for environmentally friendly farming solutions that will also have long-term socioeconomic benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dexter. I mean, it was really nice hearing from you and on how technology helps. Very quickly to the last speaker for this sequence. And the last speaker for this sequence is Mark Ihimoyan. Please forgive me if I didn't pronounce that properly. He's the Director of Business Development at Microsoft. Mark, please, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. And I must say it's an honor to be on this panel to basically discuss and share some of the interesting ways that we're collaborating with various stakeholders to essentially make digital technologies affordable to smallholder farmers. A lot has been said earlier on and very pungent points from the panel speakers. During this session, I'll just be focusing on some of the ways that Microsoft is working with other stakeholders to essentially make digital technologies affordable to smallholder farmers. We believe at Microsoft that accelerating innovation in AgriTech will enable data-driven farming that can optimize yields, help boost farmer productivity, and all the while increasing their profitability. So the use of artificial intelligence, in agriculture includes, using cutting-edge data, advanced analytics, and machine learning, right, to bring, centuries-old farming knowledge into the modern age. So essentially, we're giving the farmers the tools to optimize crop yields, mitigate the effect of climate change through tools like smart irrigation, right? It's been said earlier on, we know that agriculture sustains over 70% of Africa's livelihood. And we are committed, right, as a technology platform player to ensuring that these communities are equipped with the latest tools, including artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and edge computing to help to improve their productivity and sustainability across the sector. And we also aim to leverage our extensive partnerships and initiatives networks in this process. So I guess the key thing right now is, okay, well, so there's all of these tools, there's all of these technologies that exist, but how do you essentially democratize access to this? How do you essentially make it an equitable platform where, the smallholder farmers essentially have access to the tools and the digital technologies that some of the bigger farmers in developed markets have? And how exactly are we going about to make this a reality? Well, so firmly we believe that we need to increase access, right, to these technologies through collaboration, right? It takes an entire ecosystem to initiate this kind of change and to basically drive this level of affordability. And this includes, companies, governments, departments, and agencies, a network of startups and entrepreneurs, all with a common goal of, developing this technology and these tools and putting it into the hands of these farmers in an affordable manner. Examples of ways that we've done that in the past, through our For Africa initiative, we collaborated with AGRA as the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa to create, to co-create technology solutions in Africa that would work to improve food security for about 30 million farming households across 11 countries by 2022. So this partnership essentially, stands alongside with investments and such as our support of the World Bank's 1 Million Farmer Platform, which again aims to bring 1 million farmers onto a digital platform over the next 3 years. So you see, so I think partnerships like this and working to enable and to empower local entrepreneurs who are essentially building, Africans developing African-oriented solutions for Africans, right, definitely has, things like affordability and the peculiarities of dynamics of the local environment at its heart, at its base. And so Microsoft being a key global tech player through partnerships with, organizations like AGRA, right, through collaborations with World Bank and supporting or essentially catalyzing the local ecosystem will be a really key part of basically accelerating and putting affordable innovation into the hands of these farmers. We're also working, right, with ministries across Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and Egypt to drive impact in agriculture. It takes a village, it takes collaboration, right? And so in Egypt, for instance, we partnered with the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology and the Ministry of Agriculture, right? And this engagement with them includes, things like intelligent crop detection, water demand forecasting, right? And with the key focus being, on successful farmer engagements to promote good agricultural practices, secure data sharing across agricultural entities, and connected farms that enable, data collection through agricultural IoT sensors. In South Africa, also as an example, we commissioned, Research ICT South Africa in partnership with the University of Pretoria to help identify opportunities within the industry to make farming more efficient and cost effective, and also highlights key regulatory and policy issues to address. So I'll give one more example to talk about what we're doing in Kenya, right? And the National Agricultural Platform is a key initiative to drive digitization in agriculture. So earlier this year, we started engaging with the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries, and Cooperatives to collaborate in accelerating digital transformation in the agricultural sector in Kenya. So across the continent, right? I mean, I think we believe that by working hard, right, to enable AgriTech across various channels and partnerships, digital technologies has the potential to change the face of farming, using smart tools and platforms for precision farming, predicting weather, maximizing the use of scarce resources. And I think by being able to harness these digital technologies in an affordable manner and getting into the hands of people that need it most, I think we can definitely work to solve the pressing issues around food security and meet the SDG goals around hunger and enhancing economic development in the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. That was precise and that was straight to the point. I was just going to mention that we are pretty much about 12 minutes behind schedule. So we are going to be taking the next sequence very quickly. And I'll plead with the speakers to please try and stick to the slot as much as you can. While you're getting to the tail end, I'll just try and signify so that we end this session as quickly as scheduled. The next sequence is going to be talking about strengthening enabling environments for digital agriculture public investments. And two things we're going to look at: one, fundamental underlying infrastructure that enables digital ag to thrive, and two, public good that enables digital ag to thrive. And the first speaker is no other person but Olukemi Afun-Ogidon, who is the Principal Agribusiness Officer at African Development Bank Group, the ADB. And she's going to be speaking to us very quickly. Kemi, you have the floor. Since we can't get to Kemi, can we move on to the next speaker? Dr. Boniface Akuku, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. So we'll jump to yours very quickly. We want you to highlight practical examples of how government has been able to harness big data through coordination and organization of knowledge systems to solve challenges. And then we can come back to Kemi after. Thank you very much, Dr. Boniface.
Thank you very much, viewers and listeners. And I'll take you through some of the examples of how we are actually leveraging on big data from a government or a public sector driven initiative. I want to start by saying that one of the things that I think we need to understand and take into account is how do we turn data into a service? And this has been our success factor. Many times we process data to come with information, we interpret data to come with knowledge, which we normally publish and write reports, but we hardly turn data into services. So how do we apply data as a service? And this is one of our success factors. We've been applying data as a service. Of course, we cannot apply data directly in the farm, but we can apply services to the farm. And I'll be showing some of the examples in this case. Now, our approach is how can we apply technology and data to develop use cases or services for smallholder farmers. So in terms of developing use cases using technology and data, we need to look at four important things. One is that how do we increase or enhance digitization? Because this will lead to a number of use cases. So in our approach to this, we ensure that we digitize all the research content. The second thing is look at innovations. And in the space of innovation, we identified big data and disrupt technologies as suitable innovations, which lead to provision of information and what we call data products and data services. And the third thing is to look at disruption. How do we disrupt the status quo? because agriculture is the least digitized sector in the world. And in this case, we have been able to use satellite data and field data to disrupt agriculture. But importantly, number 4 is we need to look at how do we provide agricultural intelligence, because with the issues of climate change and other aspects, we need to make sure that we are able to provide agricultural intelligence and then build a capacity that can help us reach farmers at scale and enable farmers and policymakers to make appropriate decisions. So in this case, we looked at what could be the game changer. The game changer is to invest in big data systems, which enable and has enabled us to have a proper farmer database. We now have 1.5 million farmer database, and we maintain that through crowdsourcing. We've been able to digitize agricultural data sets, and also importantly, we should be able to again have a database of stakeholders. But again, there's also a huge opportunity in the remote sensing data, in the geospatial data, in climate data, and market data. So when you harvest all these different data sets, put them in the big data platform, and run your models and different analytics, you're able to come up with advisories which can give you trends, patterns, relationships that can now help policymakers to make the right decisions, can now help research be demand-driven, can support the remaining few extension officers, can also guide the stakeholders, and also farmers as pastoralists. So I'll be showing some of the examples that we have actually used in this case. And one of them, we have built a market information system. We provide advisories to farmers on daily market prices. And this is one area because farmer is facing a challenge with actually access to market. Again, in terms of agronomy or agronomic practices, we have also been able to develop 65 mobile applications. And these mobile applications, we have downscaled them into demonstrations, illustrations, audios, and videos that are simple and make the research content usable and enable farmers to make decisions and apply this in their farms. Although also we found that technology can be exclusive. And how then do we address technological barriers, technological exclusivity from a technological perspective? And what you have done is you have translated some of these apps, some of this content to local languages. We've also built a call center, which now farmers can also call. But in terms of intelligence, agricultural intelligence, we've been able to develop certain services like the crop selector, parcel selector, and livestock selector, and suitability maps, which enable farmers to know what to plant or what to keep, when to plant, when to keep, how to plant, how to keep anywhere in the country. And this has enabled us to be able to provide personalized advice to farmers, which you have seen increase the productivity of the farmers in this case. So those are some of the examples I want to give you. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Boniface. It's been nice having that section. I was told that Olukemi Afun-Ogidon is now available. She's the Principal Agribusiness Officer at AFDB. Olukemi, please, you can take the floor.
Great, thanks. And my apologies I just stepped away. Okay, so thank you very much. This is really interesting conversations and insights. And I'll be speaking a little bit about what we can do to channel public sector resources and capacities towards scaling up digital technologies in the agriculture sector in Africa. Now, I just want to share with you just a little insights. So just give me a second to get my screen up. So yeah, so the context of agriculture in Africa is pretty much one that is driven by rural actors. So we know that most of our agriculture producers operate in rural areas. They're remote and they're often low income. So what does this mean for their access to digital technologies? It means that it's usually, because they're low income, it's usually difficult for them to be able to pay for digital services or access digital technologies, even smartphones, and other types of more improved technologies. The other challenge relates to digital literacy and their capacity to understand and utilize long-term these digital solutions. So there's a lot of work that needs to go towards digital upskilling of agriculture actors in Africa. That's on the user side. On the innovator side, we know that most digital technologies are innovated and created by private actors. This means that they seek returns on their investment. But the reality in Africa for our rural, remote, and low-income agriculture actors is that there is a missing infrastructure, digital infrastructure, telecom infrastructure that doesn't always reach these remote areas. And as a result, there is, lower access to, internet services to be able to reach these actors. That increases the cost of delivery for the innovators to be able to reach their target market, which would be the low-income users. As a result, what we realize is that there's definitely a need for the public sector to come in, just because of the context of agriculture in Africa. The fact that it is driven by smallholders, 80% of the food comes from these smallholders, and these smallholders are low income, but then the services, digital services being created are by private sector, and they're looking for returns on investment at some point. So we really see an opportunity for the public sector to play that role as an enabler. And this role is catalytic. It's to provide this support as a public good. So we at the African Development Bank have actually identified 3 main areas that are core public sector, and one where the public sector sort of supports and partners with private sector. The first entry point we see is really when it comes to the enabling environment. This links to data governance, agriculture, digital agriculture strategies, building innovation teams within government to be able to understand how to utilize data for planning and for policy decisions. The other aspect where we really see public sector coming in is in the investment in middleware infrastructure that helps to create inclusive last mile connectors. So here we're really focusing on establishing digital identities for smallholder farmers, but also the natural resource assets that they work with, and delivering this information and this data in an open and shared manner so that you can have private sector innovators connect to that and reduce their cost of investment. And the third part, which relates to usage, as we mentioned earlier, is really investment in digital skills, digital upskilling of not just your smallholder farmer, but all the other value chain actors in the ag space. Linked to this also is creating an environment, an enabling environment and an ecosystem to have more local entrepreneurs create technology solutions that are relevant for the context of the agriculture context in the country. And the fourth part where we see public sector playing a role is to provide some sort of and not just public sector, but also development partners to provide soft capital, patient capital to tech actors. We heard earlier that a lot of tech companies are able to get maybe to 1,000, 10,000, maybe 100,000. Very few have gone over 1 million users. Now, how do you help them scale? The question is not necessarily proof of the technology concept, but it is more about proof of a business model that is viable to be able to scale delivery of these services to agriculture actors. And this is where we see using not just public sector resources, but development finance to be able to help create evidence of business models that work to be able to scale delivery of these services. I'll skip this slide because this was what I spoke about a little bit earlier. So how are we doing it at the African Development Bank? We are trying to mainstream digital interventions into our investments. We're a bank, and any institution or even the governments, that when you have resources and you're developing an agriculture development program or project, regardless of what aspect of the value chain it addresses, there is now an opportunity to integrate these technologies into every phase, every cycle of the project design. And it's quite detailed, so I won't go into it, but we have developed, working with our partners at FAO and IITA and in partnership with Dalberg, we have developed a toolkit that helps public sector actors and anyone that provides public sector investments for agriculture to be able to identify what conversations do you have, who do you speak to, how do you assess the level of readiness of digital for digital technologies in the agriculture sector in a certain country? Are there digital solution providers in a certain country? What kind of policies are needed to incentivize the deployment of these technologies to smallholder farmers? What value chains, whether it's crops or fisheries or livestock, is more ready to be able to absorb these technologies, as well as all the way to implementation and impact assessment to ensure that there's sustainability, to ensure that there's inclusivity, to ensure that women, where there's an increasing digital gender divide, they have access to these technologies. So this toolkit is one that we will be sharing, making public in coming months, but really it can be the base for public sector actors and other development partners to be able to utilize these types of resources to mainstream digital technologies. Thank you.
All right. Thank
you. You're on mute, Akintunde. I think we can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Forgive me. What we'll also do is to make sure that some of the presentations are available through the Secretariat for some of the people who are interested in them. That would help us speed time, quickly with our time. Thank you very much, Olukemi. We'll be moving very quickly to Dr. Tafese. Dr. Yifru Tafese is the acting CEO of Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Agency, and the ATA is a strategy and delivery-oriented government agency that wants to help accelerate the growth and transformation of the country's agricultural sector. So Dr. Tafese, if you're here, please, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, moderator. I think a little bit of correction, perhaps I'm now the Deputy CEO of the ATA formally, so the acting has been removed. So thank you for that. And thank you really for giving me the opportunity to speak on this really wonderful event. Perhaps I will be concentrating on the questions that has been, posed to me, which deals with the practical examples of how government can harness big data through coordination and organization of knowledge system to solve challenges in agriculture. So the Ethiopian Transformation Agency, ATA, was established 10 years ago to really catalyze change and transformation in the sector. As you know, over 80% of the population lives on rural areas, mainly in the agricultural sector, with very low level of technological adoption. So, cognizant of this fact, we introduced what we call the 8028 Farmers Extension Hotline, where now we are able to really register close to 6 million farmers. After the government's Ethio Telecom, we are the second largest institution that had really this number of callers in our system. Where in this system we provide agronomic advisory services, we push messages through this platform, and also we provide alerts to farmers. For example, locust infestation, diseases and also other pests are disseminated through, alert messages are disseminated through this platform. We also do surveys through this platform. So this is one of the farmers' land that we have and still working. The other most important project that we did was on the Ethiopian soil information system. So we were able really to map the Ethiopian soil fertility across the country. And this is the first of its kind in Africa, perhaps, to really, map the organic matters, nutrients, both macro and micro contents, and soil chemicals, physical, biological indicators, all are mapped in order to help our researchers to recommend appropriate fertilizers. So we have digitally mapped the ethos system at the country. So this is a massive data that we have generated. The third, perhaps very important project we did was on integrated shallow groundwater irrigation development, where we mapped again 234,772 kilometers square of areas of water, a maximum of 30 meters deep, so that will help for smallholder farmers irrigate, do farming through irrigation. As a result of this project, we were able to identify 24.6 billion metric cube of water that could irrigate over 2.7 million hectares of land. So this is again a massive data as far as shallow groundwater is concerned that we did. Another big project that we did was on national market information system, where we collect using digital technology to collect data on wide range of crops, market data on retail, wholesale across the country. This is also an initiative that we introduced. Perhaps the last project that we are going is digital finance, where we introduce e-voucher system, electronics voucher system, where perhaps, in fact, this project has been also very much helpful in avoiding COVID pandemics, because farmers were able to digitally access inputs through this platform. Now, despite all this, piece of projects and programs we did, we never had a national digital strategy. So the cognizant of this gap, the government introduced what we call the 2025 National Digital Strategy back in 2019. So we are in the process of also developing digital agriculture strategy based on the national digital strategy. And to that end, we're very closely working also with, Mercy Corps. Mercy Corps also helping us in digitizing our smaller farmers to register their profile, land size, and also kind of crop production. So these are some of the initiatives we have had, and we know very much that the importance of big data in this whole process is quite important. So how do you really harness those big data? We need to collaborate with our development partners and other government stakeholders, where we can really tap the opportunities available to, in the space. So we have established a platform where all the national development partners and the private sector, government institutions that have taken different initiatives on digital ag, we created the platform, and we are leading that platform to really align efforts that are undergone by different stakeholders. Thank you very much.
That's good.
Back to you.
That's good. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. We'll be moving on quickly to the next speaker, who is Mr. Ken Lohento. He's the Digital Innovation Strategy Consultant of Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO. Mr. Ken, you have the floor.
Thank
Please,
you.
Mr. Ken, let's make this as swift as possible so that we can save a bit of time. We would also share your presentation with the Secretariat.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Akintunde, and thank you, colleagues, for the various insights that you have been sharing. FAO is very pleased to see that we have currently an intensification of support for digital agriculture on the continent. And we are hoping to contribute to streamline as well some of those interventions. As you may know, FAO has been supporting public investment in agriculture, especially digital agriculture, for decades. And particularly if, for example, you consider what we call our digital service portfolio, you can see that we have more than 150 digital products that FAO has developed to support agriculture and food system transformation. And this goes from, for example, platforms that support e-locust, especially, for example, in the framework of the fight against the desert locust in East Africa, to other platforms like what we call the SIDA platform that has been supporting advisory services in Senegal. And in the framework of our new strategy framework, FAO strategy framework, we have decided at the Regional Office of for Africa to streamline our digital innovation strategies. And then we have developed that digital innovation strategy, a new document that we have included in our framework of operations. And we are considering three kind of pillars that will support digital transformation for agriculture throughout our interventions. Working, for example, through data, increasing support to data analysis, data analytics. We have decided to put more focus on FAO's own operations, how we can really have more digital inside our operations so that we can better respond to government needs and government requests. And then for the third pillar, we have decided to work more closely with the digital ecosystem to strengthen it so that a young innovator have more opportunities, so that also the public investment that we are really leveraging can also impact, for example, women and other stakeholders that are involved in operations at local level. And particularly, we have launched, FAO has launched an initiative that we called 1000 Digital Village Initiative. It is a corporate initiative, and we are also implementing it in Africa. And throughout this initiative, we will be really supporting public investment in digital agriculture, not only to strengthen the government's actions in that area, but also to provide more opportunities to young people, to young entrepreneurs, so that we also ensure that no one is left behind. And we will be really collaborating with the private sector as well. For example, in Senegal, we will be working with an agri-tech called Tolbi, and they are involved in smart farming. In other areas, for example, in Niger, we will be working with ITU to support the initiative that they have launched, that is the Smart Village Initiative. So our 1000 Digital Village Initiative has three key layers in terms of activities. So we have smart farming activities that we will be supporting. We have market linkages activities, including financial services, digital financial services that will be supported. And we have other rural transformation services that we are also going to support, which touch non-farm activities, such as e-health, such as e-education, so that we ensure that there is a holistic, I would say, support provided to rural stakeholders. So we are calling for the collaboration of the various stakeholders, for example, the other private sector stakeholders. I've heard about Microsoft some minutes ago, so we will be happy to work with Microsoft in some of those countries, and also with other development stakeholders, because this initiative is new. We are still, I would say, looking for funds to really roll it out, but we have already started some activities because we believe that it is very, very critical to support public investment, but also to include the private sector in these operations so that we can really ensure scale, so that we can really ensure sustainability, so that we can really ensure employment and opportunity for young entrepreneurs. So if you reach out to us, you have more information about this initiative, and we will be happy to discuss with you how we may collaborate together.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ken. That was a very, very insightful presentation. We'll be quickly moving on to the next and then have comments much later. Dr. Racine, are you ready for us? Dr. Racine is the Director of Data Management, Digital Product and Technology at the Academia 2063. Dr. Racine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for having me. I had like 6 points, but I will try to make it short. The first barrier that one might face in assessing AgTech and digitalization status in Africa is the lack of data to report on it. So for example, in 2018, based on the Global Open Data Index, only 9 countries have a data availability score above 0.4 out of 1, while 50 countries have a data capability above 0.5 out of 1. So such a gap between availability and capability reveals barriers that need to be overcome. There is a need to invest in robust statistical ecosystem to report on digital solutions creation and adoption in the African agricultural sector. Without such a good mapping of such aspects, it will be difficult to assess where we're at and in terms of agricultural digitalization, and most importantly, where to focus policies and investment dynamically and sustainably. So my second point here is that digitalization in the agricultural sector will bring efficiencies in decision-making processes. As we all know, with a surge of AgTech solutions, the information flow is likely to increase analytics, predictions, which in turn will reduce uncertainties across the agricultural value chain. In a nutshell, AgTech and digitalization will reduce the cost of ineffective decisions. However, as a flow of economics teaches us, when the price or the cost of a good drops, other related goods costs might increase. And in this context, judgment and background might become more important. So therefore, capacity building might not be only focused on technical skills, but also in systemic thinking in the agricultural sector and the technology Africanization. What I mean by that is bending the hype of technology innovation to our needs. And it means also leapfrogging the information delivered to the farmers. I heard someone talking about digital literacy earlier. Another aspect to encounter when strengthening enabling environments for digital agriculture is its informal aspect. Many initiatives across the continent are not being documented because they partly do not reach scale. Africa is constituted of developing countries, hence imperfect capital markets, which are a crucial determinant of informality. And it could be a barrier for formal entrepreneurship and international visibility, which comes with it. Another critical determinant of informality is entry sunk costs to the formal sector, which are proportionally higher in developing countries than in advanced economy. Another point is the widespread technology adoption in societies in general also comes with challenges that can be nefarious to individuals and communities across ethnic, cultural, gender, or socioeconomic categories. For instance, machine learning solutions are built from historical data. Any bias embedded within the data set will potentially be reproduced by the algorithms. In Africa, for example, where land heritage is predominantly patriarchal for most ethnic groups, if banks and investors rely on machine learning algorithms, something that is already happening, built on top of several features, including gender, to provide loans to farmers, female farmers could be marginalized by the system and further accentuate gender gaps. So my last point here is that while the private sector mainly drives AgTech solutions creation, short and long-term policies are mandatory to set a framework for its development and adoption in the agricultural sector and beyond. Two main policy typologies could be emphasized here. Policies that set the right environment to facilitate the goals mentioned above, and policies that help mitigate the pitfalls of digitalization and define rules and laws to protect individuals. So the first type of policy framework mainly focuses on long-term investment in education and research. It facilitates technology-driven companies' creation with tax incentives, among other artifacts for those who focus on the agricultural sector. And in parallel, investment are needed to increase digital data gathering and analytics capacities using tablets or sensors, cloud system for storage, and computational capacities. Now, for the second type of policy framework, the goal is to mitigate protection and privacy issues that come with data availability and computational capacity. So as a conclusion, part of working to strengthen enabling environments for digital agriculture in African countries is also to anticipate trade-offs of digitalization. Faster could mean less accurate. More data can lead to less privacy, and more autonomy can lead to less control. Let's just keep in mind those aspects while working to develop African digitalization in the African agricultural sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Racine. That was a very wonderful session. Quickly, we'll be moving on to Elizabeth Mudogo. Elizabeth is the Senior Manager at Digital Solutions, Greek, for a project called DigiFarm at Safaricom. So, Elizabeth, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, moderator. Elizabeth Mudogo is my name, and I'm excited to be here in person, just to be able to speak around the item on digitization of the farming experience in Africa. I want to take you down the journey with me. We believe in DigiFarm, we should be able to feed the world. And why we should be able to feed the world, 60% of arable land in the world is in Africa. And for that matter, is in the sub-Saharan Africa. And we believe when you put everything right, you should be able to feed the world. So DigiFarm comes in as an integrated mobile platform that offers farmers convenient, one-stop shop access to a bouquet of services. And I want to take you the journey, to take us along the journey. So what we do, we basically have a farmer, a buyer-led model where we do the profiling of the farmer. So we identify the farmer and we are able to, register the farmer. And the channels that we use to register the farmer are basic. So we have for the smallholder farmer who form the majority of the Kenyan environment who use the feature phone. For those of us who are not familiar with the feature phone, it's the QWERTY keypad where they have to dial in some number. So we have the USSD service that's available to them. For the smartphone users, then we have an application. We also have a WhatsApp for business where the farmers can be able to integrate and be able to transact and share information with the farmers. So one of the things that we do within DigiFarm, our values are very simple. We believe in simplicity, honesty, and transparency. All the propositions that we do within DigiFarm are insight-led. So to that extent, we give access to the farmer to quality input. And how we do that, it's simply on the phone. All the farmer has to do is to dial *944 as a USSD. They're able to register, and we do the verification using their unique identifier, and they're able to have a bouquet of services presented on the menu. The second big part, we totally understand. Smallholder farmers do not have access to as much credit as they want to. So to that extent, we have partnered with financial institutions to give the capability of the farmers to be able to access credit. How did they do that again? On the phone. *944, and we are able to interact with them. Now, when we give them access to quality input and access to credit, the big problem then comes in. How do I interact with the system to be able to do the provision? So what we've done, we've given them access to extension service, both physical, because we're also interested in behavior change, and online. So we have a fully fledged e-extension service where the farmer simply dials 944 from his phone. It's a free of charge service where the farmer can get access to a bouquet of services. At the back, we have the experts who are agronomists and veterinary officers who are able to respond to the farmers on a regular basis on how I need to do that. The other thing that we have done to be able to support our smartphone users, we have a WhatsApp for business and an app, which basically we can share pictures and videos on how to do that. On ground, we have the DigiFarm Village Advisor, whom we will refer to as the DVA. What the DVA does basically is to walk hand in hand and to hold the farmer from wherever he's at, which is very convenient. And what he does, he shows the farmer what to do. The information that the farmer cannot be able to interpret, they actually do it on ground. Now, let me bring it closer home. When I say 30 centimeters, to me, I understand I have to take a ruler and go down to measure. What the DVA does, he actually measures and gives them it's 2 hands. So it's very practical information that the farmer can be able to increase on his productivity. The other big bit that we do, we have demo farms. So we've partnered with the manufacturers and other information providers who are able to give the demo farms to the farmer, and the farmer can be able to have the visual. The fourth big part, which we work with, when we give credit, then we talk about the insurance. So we also supply and support our farmers by giving insurance for what value chain they're doing, and we work with them hand to hand. The big part that we do is the aggregation. For every farmer who does any farming activity, DigiFarm comes in to give them a sustainable, to make the farmer wealthier in a commercially viable way. So to that extent, we offer a market. So we do the aggregation service to ensure that the farmer gets quality produce, and we are able to offer a comprehensive market for that produce. The big part, we are able to do that in a commercially viable way. We've started mechanization. And just of interest, when I had one of my colleagues speaking around, the spraying, we have actually started the drone service where we are able to standardize and be able to support our farmers by using the spraying, using the drone services, and also using tractors as a service to be able to reduce the production cost and make sure the farmer actually is wealthy at the end of the day. How we've been able to do that? We've been able to do that by working with partners who have been able to support us from a financial perspective. They've been able to support us from a learning content perspective, where we give the farmer access on the phone, where they're able to navigate and get content easily at the palm of the hand, and they're able to interact on a regular basis. And besides that, they're also able to call the 944 service and the DVA on ground to be able to support that. On the part of input quality, we have DMA, DigiFarm Master Agent. In very simple terms, it's branded agrovet who we are able to supply quality input to our farmers. And we close the loop and we work hand in hand to make sure we have quality farmers who are able to deliver. And yes, we believe in DigiFarm, we should be able to feed the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. That was a very good and precise session. Lastly, we'll be having a closing remark from Professor Dube. Prof, are you ready?
Yeah, can you share my screen? Can you put my slides up, or do I need to share my screen?
Okay, they'll put our slides up now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As Victor is putting my slide up first, well, do you want to introduce me? I can today, or do you want me to briefly give a context of where I come from?
Go ahead, Professor Dube. Okay. We've lost time, so I didn't do that.
Okay, very good. So I am chairing this McGill Center for the Convergence of Health and Economics for more than 15 years. We have been working towards saying, can we address some of the problems that we have been progressively seen accumulating since the first industrial revolution, with this kind of quest for economic convergence, where it was primarily economy and the rest was social and health and environment were externality. And that is really when we are talking here about proposing that we build upon the digital transformation that has been accelerated with this Industry 4.0, with the COVID, not only of agriculture, but of science, system, and society, to say, can we move from this economic convergence to what we call convergence economy? And I'll be back to digital agriculture. I can just tell you that what I heard from all of you, put this together and you have already absolutely a state-of-the-art ecosystem for digital agriculture, exactly comparable to EU, Canada, and US. The point that we wanted to make in advancing these concepts of convergence innovation platform is to say, digital technology are enabling not only the big data and so on, but they are enabling connectivity of individual, organization, country, and so on. And this is kind of one key part of building upon the digital transformation and the focus of the small farmer, that we would like to propose to say it's not just if we are to reach the SDG goal, it is the whole world that has to change, and having both all countries on the same planet. And so far, we have been neglecting the fact that agriculture and farm are the entry point to development around the world. And the first model was to say, let's just use agriculture as entry point for industrialization and urbanization. And here, what we have the opportunity to do, and in particular, not just in Africa, but I will talk about Canada also and any place around the world, is that can we build this digital architecture that inform at various position the person within the various level of jurisdiction where we are creating context, and then could we anchor the development of this digital architecture into real world solution. So that is why you see here the FCI Africa Alliance that has been in development for more than 3 years now, saying the digital cannot be disconnected from the real world innovation. The person that is currently your small scale farmer regardless of the size of the farmer, those persons are also part of in their other roles as family or as citizen and so on. This is something that is currently, I think, can be built upon in looking at digital anchor of digital agriculture, in moving forward toward creating this person-centered, digital-powered global ecosystem of platform, so that we equip the farmer themselves to be as efficient and so on and so forth.
Sorry, Professor Dube. Sorry to cut you. You just have 1 more minute.
Okay, that's good.
This session has almost ended already.
Thank you. So the point is really to say that then take your digital agriculture architecture as the entry point to work as a whole of society to create the whole, connect the actual data and actors that are necessary to create an economy. And this is from that perspective that we will be hosting Canada, Nigeria, and Ghana, a UN summit side event the day after for advancing this opportunity that we have and this challenge of capitalizing on this digital transformation for a world reset on convergence economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dube. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. It's been a great session. Thank you for all the remarks. We'll share a bit of knowledge, one another, materials afterwards. Thank you very much. Secretariat, you could have